Alright, welcome back. This video coming in rather late. Supposed to make it last night, but I was super tired. I was going to make it, and then I ended up passing out, and I was like, oh, I'll make it in the morning, and whatever. So, I'm going to make this video to cover for yesterday, and then I'm going to get to work after this, and I'll make another video tonight for today. Properly. Okay. Yesterday, first of all, what I worked on, I got a bunch of stuff to comment on here. First of all, the work I got done, I was just cleaning up some of the issues that I mentioned that I did not like from working on the prototype for level 2.6. I'm done with this now, so I'll be getting to level 2.7 tonight. But yeah, so I mentioned what was the few issues I had here. One was, oh yes, so the gunmen, when they shoot their gun at you, they were often very inaccurate because I added a thing where they have like a 0.35 second delay on your position after you dash. So you dash, and then a short period of time after, when they go to shoot, they will shoot at your last position before you dashed. So because that delay was so big, the point of that was I didn't want it to feel too unfair with them having like hyper precise aiming. But I found that big of a delay, it was annoying. It worked fine for the archers because you're trying to just dodge their projectiles, but with these bullet guys, you can deflect the bullet back at them, and that's usually the best way to kill them. So it was really annoying trying to predict where they're going to shoot because they're often really inaccurate, which makes it harder for you to deflect it back to them. So all I did, because I think I was going to say that I wanted to make it so that it's a delay on them shooting at you instead of having them be really imprecise, but I feel like that will just make it so that they don't shoot at you as often, which isn't very fun either. So all I did was reduce the amount of time, reduce the amount of time, the delay. Instead of 0.35 second delay, it's now a 0.1 second. So there's a little bit of inaccuracy to it, but they're much more accurate now, which makes it way easier to predict. Way easier to predict and deflect the direction of the bullets. So there you go. A little preemptive there. Alright, anyway. So that was one thing. Another one was, oh yeah, these guys, they dash around, and I noticed they were missing the trail when guys dash. So there you go. The trail is on them now. So that visual effect is added. And then Genyu, right. There's this weird thing with him following you where I noticed he was kind of walking up against the wall. So because my pathing graph, which you can see, yeah, so normally you can see it's wrapped really tight around the wall here. Now the actual position of characters is right in the center of them. So if I allow the AI to walk right up to this edge here, the character will be standing right on top of there, which makes them look like they're inside the wall. So I have to add these artificial, it's like a collider that makes it so that it takes a block out of the graph, but there's no actual collision there. So anyway, as you can see, it just makes it so that this one's probably a little too crazy, but you can see now Genyu walks all the way around it, so that way he never goes into the wall. It's probably a little too exaggerated, but I just did that to make sure that was what the issue was with that, and it turns out it was. So that's dealt with, and yeah, I had to make a small adjustment to him shooting the enemies as well. I lowered the delay on that. Let's take a look. Actually, let me turn this off too. Damn it. I just realized right now that, so anyway, I don't know if you saw that, but he shoots at the guy that comes out from behind you in the wall. Right here. Yeah, you just barely see it there, but actually, I don't know. Could you see that? Did you? Yeah, you saw it. All right. Okay, anyway. I was just going to say that one thing I just noticed was the delay on these guys. It's because I added... I'm going to show in a second. I added something else to their behavior, but I added too long of a delay here, I think. Let me just quickly fix that. I made it so that they're their shoot behavior, I reset the timer when the behavior starts, which is why there's like a delay on them shooting at you there, but I don't want there to be a delay when the behavior starts. I want the delay to only happen... Yeah. Only when we switch out of this behavior, then reset the timer. Okay. So, the reason for that was because I manually set positions on each one of these gunmen. They dash back and forth between positions. So I manually set those relative positions around them that they will dash in between as they shoot you, because I wanted precise control over that. But the problem with this level, because that works fine when I have the typical level design where everything is in a closed off room, so they can only move around that one room, so having manual position works great there. But here, this is a unique level in that it's all just one big, really long room. So I was thinking, well, what happens if I only have a couple positions set up around him, but the player, for whatever reason, what if he decides to like skip him and run all the way past him, just keep going, or maybe even run all the way back? The dude will just be stuck sitting there waiting for you to come back. And, well, that just seems dumb. So I added a backup behavior to them so that if you run too far out of their range, they will now dash towards you just like the dashing swordsmen do, and they'll just relentlessly pursue you, and once they get within range, they'll start shooting at you again. So that way they don't stand around like an idiot. Let's take a look. Hold on. Gonna need to turn on God mode here. It's gonna be hard to... I don't even know how much people will be able to pull that off because it's so hard to progress without killing guys, but yeah, you can see these guys are all following me now. Also, somewhat comically, notice that all those guys got killed there. It's because they're they're killing each other when they shoot. Alright, anyway, you get the point. And yeah, so that's it. Just cleaning up a few of those issues, and with that done, I'm going to get started on the next level, which will feature specifically the gunman mixed together with the dashing, jazzy swordsman enemies. Okay. So, few other things I wanted to talk about. Okay, first I will comment on my last video. I had a couple comments on there, and somebody asked a question, and I would like to respond to that. So, also don't mind my my broken t-shirt, my ripped shirt. I just came back from the gym, and I don't care much for my fashion when I go there. Okay, so first of all, Alec Webb said he's currently enjoying an off year from a decade of on and offs of the same habit that I've been talking about recently in my videos. And he said grocery shopping has never been less exciting. Now, I'm not really sure what that means. So I was kind of curious about it, because does he mean grocery shopping has never been less exciting because he's eating really healthy, and when you do that it becomes boring because you're just always eating the same stuff? Because that's how it is for me. Actually, I guess that has to be, because what would be the reverse of that? Grocery shopping is less exciting because he dreads the junk food he's going to buy? I can't imagine that makes any sense, because that's how it is for me. I go and eat whatever the hell I feel like when I'm having my off time. I look forward to buying large packages of cinnamon buns. So anyway, I'm assuming that's what he means, maybe, or there's some other meaning that's like abstract here that I'm not getting. But anyway, that's that. And the other one was this guy Dest5218. He said, "Hey man, I love your videos. I need some advice," and thank you for that. I need some advice and want to start working on my game on Unreal Engine. And there's so many materials to learn that I'm confused, and there's so many updates. I don't know what to do. And also, should I devlog on YouTube? So, with regards to working on a game, and I would assume, based on how he describes here, I assume he's starting out. But I think all you can really do, and the best thing to do, is just pick literally any tutorial, anything you can find, any learning material that you like, that comes naturally to you. You can follow along well with it, and it's being taught in a way that resonates with you. And then follow along with whatever version they're using. Maybe they're using an older version of an engine, or hopefully it's up to date. But either way, it doesn't matter, because game development hasn't changed since forever, basically. Some of the tools, the specific tools change, or techniques that are used for how to do certain specific things when it comes to like rendering or whatever, but that's super advanced stuff. The fundamentals of how everything works and how everything comes together is exactly the same. So it doesn't really matter how or where you start, because you're going to be learning the same stuff no matter what. And once you learn that, you'll be able to easily pick up any other engine you want. You'll be able to pick up more modern versions if you started with an older one, like anything at all. It won't matter, because everything works basically with the same underlying logic. So really, you should just not worry that much about the details and just pick anything that makes sense to you, wherever the earliest starting point that makes sense for you is, and just follow along with it and do your best to learn from it and complete whatever little project the tutorial teaches you. And then after that, the other piece of advice I would have is to experiment with it yourself. I think that's a really important part to getting out of. I've heard a lot of people have problems with tutorials where they follow along with it and they finish it, but then they feel like, well, I haven't learned anything. Like, I basically just copied this thing, and yeah, I have this cool thing that's done here, but I actually have no idea how any of this works or why it works the way that it does. I think the second step is that you have to go off on your own and kind of like experiment and test your own knowledge. So what I used to do when I was a kid and I first ever started learning how to program, we were following along with the teacher, who it's also kind of like following a tutorial. You're really just doing whatever they tell you, and you learn some stuff along the way, but it's mostly like pre-written code. You're just copying off the whiteboard of what this guy tells you, right? And at the end of these projects, we would get to take them home, and at a really young age, I still didn't totally understand how it all worked or came together. I probably wasn't capable of sitting down and writing anything myself from scratch. But what I would do is take those finished projects and I would look at specific lines and figure out and understand at least like, okay, well, I remember what this line does and what this is supposed to do. So what happens if I change this? Like, let's say I want my character to go twice as fast. What line is that? Okay, it's probably this line, and I see there's a number there. Okay, so if I just make this number twice as big, is he going to move twice as fast? And then I will make the change, run it, and oh yeah, he moves twice as fast. Cool. And now I learned something. Like, okay, so that's how I write this, if that works. And then, okay, so like, why does that change the speed? Because this thing says this. And that's kind of, I find, how you learn things, is if you mess around with it. That's how I approach almost everything. I don't know if that works best for everyone, but even when I'm starting a new game, like I almost always skip tutorials and just push like every fucking button in the game and just see what things do. It's like almost like a scientist way of approaching learning. Like, you just mess with shit and see what happens. And by seeing what happens when you do something, that's how you learn what does what and why it works the way that it does, you know? So yeah, that's my recommendation. Just pick whatever tutorial you want that you found that looks good, that teaches whatever it is you need to know starting out. Follow along with whatever version they suggest. It doesn't matter if you do older stuff, because I guarantee you it will transfer to new stuff. Even in newer versions, if they kind of change how things work, most of the time it's going to be like they put it under a different menu, or they just kind of like changed how it looks visually, or whatever. And then you might have to find some other tutorial that explains to you how this new version works compared to the old one, but the same underlying principles, the logic of how it works, will be the same. So don't worry about versions and all the complexities of everything. Just find the simplest thing you can, start learning with it, and just do it. And as long as you stick with it over time, you'll start to see how it all comes together. And then slowly but surely, you can work your way up to the more specific fancier techniques for shaders and whatever, making models and lighting and all that kind of stuff once you understand how all the basics work and it all comes together. Yeah, and once you know how that all works, then the rest of it will come easily as well. And then you'll get practice not only in how game development works, but you get more practice in how to learn from tutorials and how to learn from other things, you know? Also, nowadays, you have the added resource of being able to just go to, if something isn't making sense, you can go to ChatGPT and be like, hey, here's this thing I'm doing. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old if, you know, it feels too complicated or you don't like how the thing you're following explained it. Okay. So that's my advice on that. Now, as for should I devlog on YouTube? So I was thinking about this quite a bit because the conventional advice that people will always give, especially on game development forums and stuff, is that it's a waste of your time. Because most devlogs don't get a ton of views. I mean, mine don't do that great. So because of that, they present it as it's a bad return on your on investment, a bad use of your time because it's not efficient. You don't get a lot of views. There's probably other ways to promote your stuff that will work better. However, the more I thought about this, the more I thought this actually doesn't make any sense because, so right off the bat, first of all, it depends on why you want to do devlogs. I mean, if you want to do it just because you enjoy it, well, then just go ahead and do it. Why not? I find for me, it also helps to keep me accountable, and that helps to keep me helps to keep me driven. It forces me to have to try to get something done every day. And even on those days where I didn't get something done, I think that act of having to post a video being like, I did nothing today, it also kind of has an effect on me psychologically where it's really like, man, I really got to get my shit together, you know? So I think it's a great motivational discipline tool potentially. And I feel like it helps to keep me accountable, even though I know there's very few people watching and realistically, probably no one would actually care if I didn't post a video. Nonetheless, the illusion in my mind that there is this imaginary audience waiting for me to post a video helps to keep the pressure on. And yeah, I don't know. I like it. I think it's a fun way to stay productive. So if you want to do it for those reasons, well, then why not? But if you want to do it to try to be more successful, like I said, conventional advice is it's not worth it because it's like a lottery ticket as to whether or not you'll be successful. I don't think that's entirely true. I think you just have to be really good at editing and you have to follow the popular trends and keywords and things like that. I think my biggest difficulty with it in terms of trying to use it as a way to be more popular is precisely that I really don't like being like other things and I like to do my own thing, and I haven't also had or put in the time to get like really, really good at editing and to make, and I mean for the while now I haven't even made any fancier videos at all. But yeah, I don't know. I just like doing my own thing and doing what I think is fun, and I haven't had the time to really sit down and experiment properly and learn like, I don't know, good editing techniques and finding my style and all that. So yeah, so I haven't done too well with it, and it seems to me like it is a big task. You got to really get into that. You either have to already know a lot about it and be willing to copy other people's style is probably like some of the more successful devlogs. That's probably a better way of getting more success fast. And I just don't like copying other people's stuff because I think it's boring. But anyway, having said all of that, what was on my mind about this though is it's weird to say you shouldn't do it because it's probably gonna not give you good returns, because then you might as well not even make a game. I mean, chances are you're not gonna make a lot of money making a game. Most independent developers don't, and especially if you're starting out your first project, no offense, it's probably not gonna be that great. So if there's no reason to post devlogs because it's probably not going to make you successful, there's no reason to even make a game then. So the advice doesn't really make any sense. The fact of the matter is, if you want to succeed at all, you do have to promote your game somehow. Now, posting devlogs might not be the most efficient way to do it. You could probably do something like, I don't know, posting short YouTube videos or TikTok videos and stuff that you can get like much bigger returns for having to invest a lot less time. But arguably, even there, you kind of have to know what you're doing. You still have to experiment a lot. You need to edit things and so on. It's just a little less time consuming since the videos are shorter. But yeah, I mean, arguably almost any form of promotion, unless you're good at it, is going to be a bad return on investment. So, so really, no matter how you look at it, should you do it? I mean, if you want to sell yourself at all, you got to make some kind of videos. So whether you want to do devlogs or not, you know, do whatever you want to do, but you got to do something. And no matter what, I don't know, man. This is the kind of like, the more I think about these kinds of things and trying to give advice on it, it's the sort of thing where it all comes down to you, man. It all, like, no one can. I made a whole video a long while back about how you shouldn't take advice from people because people don't know why things work and they don't know why something worked for them. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to go and figure it out and do it yourself. You want to say, should I devlog on YouTube? Like, I don't know, man. Do you want to? Do you care about doing it? Do you want to maximize your chances of success? Well, then I guess you should, I don't know, probably post anywhere and everywhere and see what works and what doesn't. Maybe you have a style, a personality that comes across well in shorts but not in devlogs, or maybe it comes across great in devlogs but not in shorts, or maybe none of that works and you got to figure out, okay, I got to learn how to make one of these things work, and so I want to see which of these do I have the most fun making and that I'm willing to do, and then figure that out. Or, you know, like, it's all a process of discovery. I started making YouTube videos because I knew that I needed to, exactly what I just said, I needed to try everything to try to promote this game, because I realized how incredibly important that was after how things went with my first game, where I did not do almost any job of that at all. And I made these videos because I just thought I had kind of a unusual enough personality that it might be a really great way of selling my games. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no plan at all. You go back and watch my first video, it's like I literally just turned my camera on and was like, I guess I'll just talk, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I still kind of don't know what I'm doing, to be honest. But in the process, I found that I really enjoyed making the videos. And it was something that I felt like over time, I kind of do want to get better at this, and I enjoyed doing this, and I seem to like talking to a camera. So yeah, so I just do it. And honestly, probably most of the time, it really is a waste of my time if you just look at it from the perspective of trying to promote my game. But once in a while, it gets me a burst of publicity, gets some interest. It's hard to say in the long run, even right now, was it worth it? Because it's hard to know, like, how many of the people who I've gotten into my game and following my videos are going to be end up being part of the reason why maybe it gets even bigger. You know, like, you never know how some of these people tell somebody else, and if somehow out there's this web of people who end up getting connected, and then maybe because of that someone knows some streamer, and then that guy plays my game one day, and then maybe that makes it more popular, and that, you know what I mean? So it's hard to even quantify these things. It's possible that you could not even get a huge audience, but nonetheless, because you made those videos, that triggers something else that then ends up making something more successful. You know what I mean? So, like, I just honestly think, man, shit is so complicated. The way the world works and life is so complex, there's no accounting for these things. And it's just like, the harder you try, the more you, I don't know, just put the effort in. Like, I feel like something will come of it. And if nothing else, at least you can enjoy the process of doing it. And of course, obviously, if you're willing to put the time and the effort in, and you don't mind maybe being a little more like other people, you can also always try to study all the trends, study the way videos are done, the ones that are the most successful, and then imitate that to the best of your ability. I think that will always guarantee you at least some minimum level of success. You probably need to put some kind of your own twist on it for it to potentially blow up beyond that. But yeah, I don't know, man. But you see what I mean? It's complicated. You just gotta, like, just do whatever the fuck you want to do, man. Should I devlog on YouTube? I guess my answer is, I don't know. Should you? It's the best I can say. There's no guarantee of success. There's no guarantee you'll even like doing it. So you just gotta decide for yourself whether it's something you want to bother to try doing for whatever reason you have, and then do it and see if you think it was worth it or not, and whether you enjoy it or not. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the nature of progression systems in games, and why I kind of don't like them. They're a lot of fun, but on a deeper level, I don't like them. I've mentioned that recently a big part of my living like a total degenerate and being unproductive was playing World of Warcraft, and most recently a game called Fellowship, which is basically the dungeon running aspect of World of Warcraft condensed down into just like, that's it, that's the whole game. And of course, dungeon crawling games revolve largely around finding loot at the end of it or throughout it, and then you upgrade your gear, and then you can run more difficult dungeons, and you keep doing that. And I was thinking more broadly about how, okay, I thought to myself, if it wasn't for the gear upgrading progression aspect of this game, would I have played it for as long as I did? Would I have even enjoyed it as much as I did? And I really, really don't think so. I think if you remove the progression from it, what you are left with is a mediocre, maybe kind of above average game. Would I play it purely for the gameplay? I feel like, I don't know, I'd play a few dungeons, maybe a few runs for 30, 60 minutes, and I'd probably be bored of it, and that's it. I don't think it's satisfying enough that I would see myself coming back to it over and over again, unless it had, I mean, I generally don't come back to games over and over, but this is a game where you specifically rerun dungeons all the time, and like the only motivation for that is the hope of getting the loot at the end of it to fulfill your next progression thing. And that is so much the focus that when you get grouped together with other people in the game, you have to vote on what dungeon you want to run. And if the group mostly votes on a dungeon that another person doesn't need for their progression, they'll just leave right away. So there's this very literal sense of, this game isn't even worth playing, and I'm not even going to have fun unless I know I'm getting this loot at the end. So like, no one's playing it just for the fun of it. It's always a grind. There's the actual fun aspect is very minimized. The fun is actually this thing that's kind of totally separate from the gameplay itself. And then I was thinking about PUBG, because I was playing that with a friend of mine. And I was like, well, that's different, because that is inherently fun. There's moments in playing that game, there's like this fantasy of being like a military squad with your bros, and you know, you get into these crazy firefights, and that part can be a lot of fun. But then I was thinking, there's kind of an addictive nature to it there too, that has a similar sort of reward system, because first of all, I mean, in the game you have, like, when you land, there are all these items you find on the map, and when you find something that's more rare, that's also kind of similar to the looting aspect in dungeon games. But even more than that, it's the nature of getting towards the end of the game. Maybe you're one of the last teams alive, and then you end up dying, and you're like, oh, we were so close. So then you're like, let's go again. We can get the next one. So then you play another game. Maybe on this next game, you die almost right away. And you're like, well, that's bullshit. We're going again. That doesn't count. We can't end on that note. And I've always noticed how this kind of psychology, it's got to be identical to whatever's happening in your brain during gambling. Well, that poll didn't go very well. Well, I can't end on a loss. And then and then you win a couple in a row, and you're like, well, I can't stop now. I'm on a winning streak. And I feel like every competitive matchmaking rank-based game kind of works like this as well. And then I started thinking how even more broadly, almost all video games in some sense have this sort of risk-reward system built into it, and that feeling of like, oh no, I can get it this time, I can get it. And then I was thinking about how movies and music and books and every other medium None of those have fail states. None of them have progression systems. Their version of, now they can have, and my bigger point here is I was wondering if I have a problem with this because it feels like a cheap way of making something fun. Like it doesn't have this real, these kinds of games, it almost feels like a big part of them, it's not that it's actually inherently fun in like a raw sense, if you can describe it like that. It's fun specifically in the gambling sense. It's this kind of, they're like more, I was thinking about how they're almost like more sophisticated clicker games. A clicker game is you click the mouse button and a number goes up. And that's literally the game, right? But then eventually when you get to a certain number, well, now you can like buy an upgrade with all your clicks. And the upgrade will allow you to get even more clicks for each, even more numbers for each click. And then I was thinking to myself, yo, what if you removed the progression system from a clicker game? What are you left with? Nothing. There's no game. The game would be click the button to click the button, and then you click the button and you're like, oh, this game fucking sucks. What is this? So I was thinking about how it's like that with these other games, like with Fellowship. Like they have other elements there that can make them more fun. Sure, there can be a nice art style, whatever. And a story game, I think, overcomes that as well. And you can have sound design. You can have all these aesthetic things that can make it so it's more than just the progression system. But there are some games like that, though, where despite the design of everything else, really it comes down to the progression system. At least insofar as if you were to remove it, this game would be seen as totally mediocre, and you would probably have never heard of it, and like barely anyone would play this shit. And I just noticed how, thinking about that, how so many games, and I don't think this is a completely bad thing. I mean, to some extent, this is the nature of all games. There's always going to be a fail state. It's winning or losing. It's kind of the idea behind a game. But there's this other kind of fun in the context of games where it doesn't specifically have to be about the winning or the losing. I was thinking a lot about when you're a kid and you play games with your friends, or sometimes you even make up games that like, I don't know, don't even like have rules, or you can't even, like when you play Imagination as a kid and you just pretend to be something, like there's no fail state, right? There's no competition. Like it's just the inherent fun of what you're doing. And I was thinking about how so few video games do that. Games are understandably and traditionally rooted in fail states, in that repeated experience of like almost getting the thing and failing, or finally getting it and the nice feeling of the reward. So yeah, it made me think about all these, because I was talking not too long ago about trying to make games into something more than just a game, something that competes artistically on the level of all the other mediums I mentioned. And I'm thinking now, I wonder if that's a big part of it. Trying to come up with ways of making video games that don't depend on fail states. And there are, of course, some games like this. I think puzzle games are kind of like that, because you can't really fail puzzle games per se. Usually, you either just give up or you keep playing it until you figure it out. But I'm not a fan of puzzle games, so it doesn't count to me. Walking simulators, visual novels, but then I'm not a fan of those because I feel like they don't really take advantage of the medium. They often feel like this could easily be a movie, for example. I think about something like Disco Elysium. That's a game that, people are always talking about how it has some of the best writing in games and all that. But anytime I think about playing Disco Elysium, and I've watched a lot of videos of it, I'm always like, this is just the kind of thing where if this was the experience I wanted, I really would rather just read a book, because this is lacking in the thing that to me makes video games more interesting as a medium, the interactivity, the added interactivity that goes beyond just having a story presented to you. And yeah. I think the best examples I can think of right now are something like, well, actually, I have a couple funny examples of. First of all, Abzu, You play as this like scuba diver. This came out some years ago, and I don't remember there being any kind of fail states in that game. You're just kind of exploring the sea, and you come across some ruins, and it's kind of like a non-verbal storytelling interactive experience. And I really enjoyed that game. I thought it was great. They recently, I believe the same developer recently came out with Sword of the Sea, I want to say it was called, something like that, and I wanted to check that out because I really enjoyed those kinds of games. And I feel like it's like that kind of Journey is another one because it's like some of the same people who made that. Those are the kinds of examples of games I'm talking about, and there's not a lot of those. And they don't have to be exactly like that, where it's just like traveling from one thing to another. I'm wondering how many different more unique experiences could be made that are like that, where in some sense it's almost not even a game in the traditional sense. I mean, if you don't have a rule set and there is no fail state, I wonder, like, can you even call that a game? Is it properly called a game? I don't know. But obviously we don't really have another word for it. And it feels weird to be like, it's an interactive experience. I don't know. A digital interactive experience. But I was thinking also, when I was a little kid, I remember I never really enjoyed properly playing through Ocarina of Time. But I remember borrowing a friend of mine's copy of it because he progressed quite far into the game, and all I would do is run around on my horse in Hyrule Field. That's it. That's all I did. And it's not like, oh, for fun I did that one time. Like, no, I have vivid nostalgic memories of that. I remember, like, I did that shit for hours, just running around, talking to characters, things like that. I never properly played the game because I just didn't like it that much, or I don't know, maybe I wasn't even good at it. I can't even remember exactly, but I just didn't really care, and I just liked the feeling of it and the experience of it. And I remember, I think, doing that in a lot of different kinds of games where I just enjoyed running around in the world and the feeling of that. And I really wonder how much design space there is and how much unique experience there are that are possible to be made in that kind of design space where you do that intentionally, where you make a game where the whole point is that there is no, not just games where there is no end goal, because I think games that tell a story are also really great, but just finding ways of telling a story or just having an experience like that that's totally unique to video games, but also it's not really even a game. And I think that would also be the best possible way of making it a medium that's more accessible to everyone. You're going to have people who, like, to read a book, you only need to know how to read. If you can see, you can watch a movie. Hell, you don't even have to see. You can just, like, listen, right? All other artistic mediums are accessible on some level to everyone. Games are kind of unique in that so many of them, even games sometimes that are trying to be more artistic or tell a story, there's always so much difficulty with designing around challenge and difficulty and mechanical skill that's required, to the point where, you know, for some people it's almost like pointless because you have to make the game so easy that it's like hardly even a game anymore, which kind of defeats the design point of it. It's kind of like the whole argument that people have with, like, should Dark Souls games be made more accessible by making them less difficult? And I don't think so. You know, people who like difficult games and like mechanical games, I don't mean to say anything against that. Games are fun too, but I just think that looking at games, if trying to turn them into a medium for artistic experiences, it feels like it needs to be something. It has to kind of like transcend the whole idea of a game, to get away from just always relying on the kind of like gambling part of your mind that's always about risk and reward, which fundamentally games are all always designed around, and I think is what creates, I don't want to say an artificial kind of fun, but like a cheap fun. Kind of like how with like a shitty horror movie that relies on jump scares all the time, right? Versus a deeper horror movie like The Exorcist, where there might be some cheap stuff in it, but there's a deeper kind of dread to it and thoughtful themes and however else you want to put it. But where point is, it's more of a complex experience as opposed to preying on this like singular thing in your brain that's like, ooh, that feels good. That feels interesting. So yeah, I don't know, just an interesting thought I had. And in fact, the game I want to make after this one is exactly a game like that, which didn't come from me thinking about all this stuff. It's just an idea I had that I wanted to make naturally. But yeah, I don't know. Just something I was thinking about that I thought was interesting. It might be something I think a lot more about. It might be something. It might be like my thing in the future. I don't know. Maybe I want to focus more on making stuff like that after I'm done with this game, because that was something I thought a lot about in my first game. Especially, I thought a lot about wanting to make that for it, because that first game, The Life of a Magical Circle, that was very much all about designing a game that's not just a game, but which intertwines with its narrative in an intelligent way and has something more meaningful to say. And I'm really proud of what I accomplished with that. But one thing I definitely didn't accomplish was also trying to think about, and I'm not sure if I put much effort into it, but trying to make it more accessible, like I was just talking about, making it something that's not about win or lose, but ultimately it was like that. And it was very skill based. It requires like a pretty decent kind of mouse movement. And I remember one thing I was very disappointed about with it was just how many people struggled to wrap their head around even being able to play it in the first place. So yeah, I don't know. And even now, man, I go to play, when I go to pick up games now to play them, and I'm using them as an escape, it's always those fucking gambling style, not literally gambling, but you know, the what I will describe now as clicker style, just like fundamental games in the traditional sense of games, where it's just like win or lose, feel good about yourself when you win, get upset when you lose kind of feeling. I go for those, and I almost feel it's like the same when I go to watch a TV show or a movie, and I'm like, do I want to watch something with substance or put on the, I don't know, probably like the male equivalent of a reality TV show? The male equivalent, because I don't watch women's reality TV shows at all. But yeah, the same idea of like something that's kind of cheap and dirty and kind of like junk food for your mind versus the thing that is of more substance. And when I'm trying to, yeah, I don't know, cope with something or just turn my brain off, I go for the cheap stuff, and I find myself always going for a certain subset of games that fulfill that experience. But really, I think the truly best experiences are ones that are not about that. It's the ones that are, I mentioned previously, I was thinking about how so many of when I list my favorite games, they have to do with like the social experiences I had around those games, or the feelings they brought me, and oftentimes the nostalgia. So yeah, I want to try in the future making games that are more about creating an experience and less about, I don't know, some kind of fail state, I guess I don't know, maybe even games like and now that I think about it, I guess something like Minecraft. Games like Minecraft and Stardew Valley. I guess there are lots of games like that I can think of. I feel like most of the games I can, like the most successful games I can think of that have that kind of accessibility would be like Minecraft, Stardew Valley, like manager type games like that. I mean, so in a way, those games also do have some fail states if you play them in their main mode. But like management, creator type games where also there isn't really an end goal. Because there's a lot of those creator type games, like, make your own room, design your own whatever. There was that one game that was extremely successful, an indie game that was, I don't remember the name of it, but you design your own castle, I think it is, and it looks really pretty. So there's those kinds of games. But even there, so that's more in the direction of what I was thinking of, but not exactly. Because I'm also, personally, I don't enjoy that much games that are also completely directionless, where it's just like, go and do whatever you want or make this kind of thing. But I do guess those kind of fall into the category of what I'm talking about. But I would like to see more stuff that's more in the vein of like Abzu out of all the games I've played, I feel like is the best example of it. Something where it's a proper game in the sense of it being an interactive experience where you can interact with stuff, but there's also like a specific guide to it. There is some kind of point to it. It takes you in a certain direction. And I think that's what interests me the most. All right. That's it for now. I gotta get back to work. I'll see you again later tonight. One last thing I wanted to say while I was at the gym today, I decided to take a listen to the soundtrack from my game. I was going to listen to some new Jabas, and then I was like, I'm going to listen to my music first, see how it sounds. And I have to say, I'm quite pumped. I'm quite proud of what I accomplished with the music. And I was listening to something, and I was like, yeah, these are actual fucking bangers. Especially the bar song. I think Jones's bar theme song, like, yeah, I killed it on that mix. Some of the mixes, there was a couple songs in there where, like, I think all the songs are sick. I think a couple of the mixes are maybe a little like, this one sounds a little more amateurish. Like there's a little clashing instruments and stuff. But yeah, overall, I'm really, really happy with it. It kind of got me pumped up, and can't wait to get back into, especially making the music. But yeah, I don't know, just taking this game even further, you know. So I was looking out my window earlier today during the daylight. I know it looks dark, but it's not that late. It's 7 o'clock. For me, that's basically like a normal person's like 2 p.m., okay? But during the daylight, there was these clouds scattered throughout the sky in such a way that there was all these like sunbeams shooting down onto the city, and I was like, yeah, that's symbolic of the new life that is breaking out in me after finally coming out of this previous month or so long cycle of despair. You know what I mean? It's a profound moment. I was like looking out there, and I was like, damn, this is a sign from God. Okay. All right. See you later tonight.